Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to be taking up more of your questions and comments in another segment of Ask Judy. You may have seen some of the segments I have done with some of the Walton guardians who worked with us young people when we needed to have a parent or guardian on set during filming. So a comment came in from one of our lovely guardians, Joyce, who said, "Yes, Ellen was a real professional. She was in so many films for many years, and it was a pleasure to know her. I remember your mom," that would be my mom, "shortening Ellen's new slacks in all different colors. She had a Burmese cat named Charlie who came with her to work, and she loved ladybugs too. I have a rare film called All the Way Home, a remake of the original movie that was presented in person at USC University in 1981, with William Hurt, Sally Field, and Ellen Corby, who played the part of Great Grandma. It was a small part, but very powerful. I will always remember her." So thank you, Joyce, for sharing those little pieces of trivia about Ellen Corby. She really was quite remarkable. Continuing in that vein, Ajuma had a question about the Guardians. It says, "Watching the Guardians, which is really fun, made me wonder. There were often other non-Walton kids on the show. Did each one of them have their own guardian, or did the Walton guardian sometimes take on guardianship of the other kids?" If there were guest children working on an episode, they would have had a parent or guardian with them. Sometimes within the cast, or even our recurring characters, I know recently Martha Nix talked about how the other parents or my mom would kind of help look after her at times. So I think sometimes the guardians and parents who were there regularly would kind of help each other out in that sense. Like there was a point in time when my mom covered, while I was still needed a guardian, she also started serving as a guardian for Cammie. So she would have both of us. And then when I aged out of needing a guardian, she continued to be there as Cammie's guardian. So that did happen at times. There just had to be a responsible adult for each child. So I know that several of you Walton kids had siblings who were extras. Did your guardians watch over them as well, or was it one guardian per child? So yeah, if we had a sibling come and work on the show, then whoever our parent or guardian was would also look out for that child as well. Now, you weren't always on the same exact schedules, so that just meant sometimes that someone had to stick around when they were sort of off the clock, one of the children, until they were dismissed or possibly come in early. So there were things like that were worked out. And I guess if it was going to be a very different sort of schedule for the day, then maybe a different plan was covered for getting one of the children back or forth home. This next one is from West Valley, who said, "In the first casualty, when we lost GW, he and Aaron were driving home together from Rockfish bus stop, and the ground was all white. Snow. Then when he arrives at his farm, it was summer-like." So I took a look at this piece of video, and it as the car is driving along, you see that it is not snowing outside. But when we get into the shot that was inside the car where GW and Aaron are actually talking, and we are doing what is called a process shot, the outside, I can see how you would have felt it looked white. And I think it is simply like the film is kind of blown out and the dirt is just reflecting a lot of sunlight or the lights that were being projected to do the filming. And so it's kind of washing out the background and making it look like it's white, but it was not indeed snow. This question is from Leah. Yes. Hi. I don't know if you ever see my question, but I am curious if I am misremembering things. I was 13 in 1976 when this episode, this is The Wedding, came out. It was probably one of the last times that I ever watched The Waltons, but I do remember, or really think I do, that at the end of that episode, John Boy's narration said that you and Curtis had a good marriage or something to that effect and went on to have 2 sons. I always remembered that for some reason. I later found out that the show did not stay with those exact facts. I found the episode today, and the narration did not say that. Do you know if I am mistaken, or was that part edited later? Thanks so much. So no, I don't believe I listened back that it would have been changed. There's a number of inaccuracies in narrations. For instance, the first time we meet A.J. Covington in The Literary Man, in the narration it says, "We were never to see A.J. again," and yet that turned out not to be true, and we saw him not too long after in the episode The Abdication, where he came back as the scriptwriter for the movie being filmed on the Waltons mountain. So they didn't worry too much about things like that. So I don't know if maybe it was mixed up in your mind about some other narration that might have talked about a marriage that went on well, or I have no idea how you came to have that concept about it, but no, they would not have changed that narration. And this, Lynn shared an observation from the episode The Thanksgiving Story, where it said, "You can see a fly crawling on Richard Thomas's ear while he's talking to Ralph, to Daddy. It is real quick and crawls on his ear and then in his ear." And I watched on 3 different screens just to make sure that I wasn't just randomly seeing a fly. I love how he did not break character when the fly was moving on his ear. Other than that, happy birthday, Richard. So yes, true. And those types of things would happen where a bug, a fly might get in your eye or in your ear or in your hair. And if it worked in the scene to sort of shoo it away, you might. Otherwise, you just kind of dealt with it and ignored it. I think as actors, we get used to that sometimes you're on stage and something happens. Sometimes you're on screen. And rather than having to say, "Oh, no, let's cut, let's do it again," it's kind of like it's a matter of seconds and you just get through the scene and then you deal with it later. Rather than wasting film or something, it's just sort of a part of acting, a part of filming, and he just went on with it, and clearly they didn't care, and it's like, well, it's realistic, and he was supposed to be dealing with his head injury, so maybe you could consider that John Boy was just distracted and didn't even notice it. So anyway, but good catch there. Jacqueline Legrand asks this, in the episode The Ceremony, I noticed that the upstairs in the German family home looked like the Waltons' house, upper level and attic. Please confirm. So I looked back at this, and yes, as John Boy and the young boy head upstairs, it does indeed look like they used that hallway on the soundstage where you would see any of the Walton family coming up from downstairs and going to the bedrooms. And the placement of the attic steps just to the right of those stairs as you came up did indeed look like it was shot there. And this was season 1, so they may have just not even thought that anybody would get to know that particular area of the Walton house so well that you'd go, wait a minute, that's the Walton house. And it was probably just, rather than having to build another set and dig out a soundstage floor, which they had to do for us to be able to come up those stairs, they literally created those stairs by digging a hole in the soundstage floor and creating stairs down that just ended in sort of a little dirt area, landing area down there. So if someone had to go down the stairs, they'd go down the stairs, turn the corner, and just stand in that little dirt square until cut. Or if they had to come up the stairs, they'd stand in that little spot, and when they said action, they'd come up. So that's clearly what Richard and Radimus did there. And then they went up into the attic. Probably they shot that little tiny piece of the attic in there as well, because all you see is a very narrow section of shelving. So it would have been easy enough to not identify the entire attic area, but to just isolate that one piece. And then you see his parents come up and find them just outside those stairs when John Boy accidentally hits him and he falls down. So yeah, double use of the Walton upstairs. So good eye there. Thank you very much for joining me for this segment of Ask Judy. If you enjoy these segments, please do hit like and subscribe. I will see you next time for more behind the scenes of the Waltons, more about episodes, more about cast members, more of your questions in another Ask Judy, all of that. Thanks for watching.